Cabinet approval to limit use of polythene. Use of lunch sheet and polythene banned. Anti-corruption secretariat dissolved. Services of secretary not satisfactory, says Minister Rajitha Senarapna. SLFP says Minister Akil Viraj should hold discussions with the Dambulu Viharaya. Dinesh Chandimal to captain Test cricket. Upul Tharanga to captain one-day and T20 matches.
We're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News live on Newsfirst. I'm Mahina Bongzo. Let's take a look at those stories in detail now. President Maithripala Sirisena will leave for Bangladesh tomorrow for a 3-day state visit at the invitation of Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina.
During the visit, President Sirisena will hold bilateral meetings with the Bangladesh Prime Minister and the President. He will also hold bilateral meetings with the Bangladesh Foreign Minister, Health Minister, Speaker as well as the opposition leader. The President will hold extensive bilateral discussions regarding the ways to strengthen the cooperation in the fields of the maritime, education, tourism, fisheries and health, as well as the ways to promote investments between the two countries. During the state visit, the two countries are expected to sign several bilateral agreements in the fields of agriculture, education, training of diplomats, and immigration and emigration. Diplomatic ties between Sri Lanka and Bangladesh commenced from 1972, and its worth amounts $142 million earned annually.
According to the police, former Navy spokesman Commodore D.K.P. Dasanayake has been arrested by the CID over the disappearance of 11 youth in 2008 and 2009. When the case was taken up at the Fort Magistrate today, the CID had requested Dasanayake to be taken into custody. The Fort Magistrate stated that the CID does not require court permission to arrest an individual suspected of such a crime. When evidence was presented to court, it was revealed that a group of Navy personnel had kidnapped a number of youth and held them hostage in Chaitya Road, Colombo, following which they were transferred to a bunker in the Gunside camp in Trincomalee. He was the former Deputy Director of Naval Operations. In one of our headline-making stories tonight, Cabinet has decided to ban the use of lunch sheets. At the Cabinet media briefing, it was stated that the sale of food items placed inside polythene products will be banned as well.
The committee report on the National Policy and Action Plan on Polythene and Plastic was presented to yesterday's Cabinet meeting. These include short-term, mid-term and long-term action plans that would be required to be taken by authorities. In the short term, importation, production and sale of lunch sheets will be prohibited. In addition, Cabinet has decided to ban the use of polythene as decoration for various events. The law on the use of polythene, that is less than 20 microns, will continue without any change, while permission from the Central Environmental Authority has to be obtained for the use of polythene below the approved limit. The importation, production and sale of plastic boxes, plates, cups and spoons which use polystyrene as raw material is banned. Cabinet has approved the promotion of biodegradable plastic and to introduce alternatives to polythene bags, while burning polythene products in an open space is banned. The medium-term action plan recommends tax concessions for machinery that would reproduce items using biodegradable elements as raw material and to impose a 15% cess tax on all imports of plastic goods and raw material. Cabinet has approved to completely ban the importation of recycled plastic raw material. This entails the 12 provisions for the use of polythene. This needs to be put into action immediately. There are 2 medium-term action plans and 1 long-term action plan. Cabinet approval will be given this week. Once it is approved, it will be enforced. We'll see if there is an alternative or not. Let's see how the rice packets are made.
Questions regarding the draft of the Independent Council for News Media Standards Act were raised by journalists at the Cabinet media briefing today.
The document is not a final draft. Its principles and the nature of the law are still at discussion level. We will not suppress the country's free media at any point. The President and the Prime Minister informed me that I have been appointed as the convener for this. We will draw up the roadmap for this act and hold talks with all media institutions and media heads and then go ahead with the future course of action.
It calls for the news sources to be disclosed. No country in the world has this law.
Let me explain. There is a clause in this draft which is quite an important one. It says that the Supreme Court can issue an order for this information to be disclosed for the sake of national security and for the requirement of a criminal investigation. No one, be it a lower court or the Criminal Investigations Department, can demand for this information.
My colleague, attorney at law Sonali Wanigabaduge, joins us from the newsroom to tell us if what the Deputy Minister is saying is factually correct.
Yes, a cursory reading of the document says in Section 8 about the right not to disclose sources. However, by way of an exception, it says that the Supreme Court may order a journalist to disclose a source of information in the interest of national security or for the prevention or disorder of crime. However, a closer reading of the document does pose several concerns. I'll go through just a few of these. In Section 37, it speaks of the powers of the Council. In it, it says the Council has the power to examine a person under oath or affirmation and require such person to produce any information which is in that person's possession. It goes on to say that the Council has the power to call for any information held by a news media outlet needed to fulfill its functions under the Act. Also, the Council is given power to warn or admonish the news media outlet, the editor-in-chief or the journalist. Now, if we move on to Section 42, it speaks about the immunities of the Council. It says no liability, civil or criminal, shall attach to the Council, its members or any person employed by the Council for anything done in good faith in the performance or exercise of its functions or duties. The final point that I'd like to take our viewers through is Section 59, which speaks of offences. It says any news media outlet which refuses to comply with or give effect to a decision of the Council commits an offence under this Act and shall on conviction after a summary trial by a magistrate court based on a report from the Council be liable to a fine of up to 1 million rupees. So these were some of the major concerns that we have flagged with regard to this Independent Council for News Media Standards first discussion draft.
Any government, the moment they come into power, are quite close and kind to the media. Even the state-run media initially quite balanced. But as time passes, when the government begins to destabilize, opposition towards it rises. When this happens, the media reports on it, which causes the government to become frustrated about the media. This is where it has come today. The government is facing an economic and political crisis. This is where the government gets hostile towards the media. This brings a response of various forms. They call regulating. Bottom line is, they are paving a path for media suppression.
Over the past few days, Newsfirst exposed that Sri Lanka's national carrier, Sri Lankan Airlines, has failed to return an Airbus A320 aircraft to an Indian company, Air Indigo Airline. Newsfirst sought further clarification from Sri Lankan Airlines today for the delay, which has caused a massive loss to the country.
As of yesterday, cost for the rental of this aircraft had reached a total of $768,000 or 119 million rupees, which represents $12,000 for each day the aircraft is not returned to the lessor. Today increases the amount owed to $780,000, which is a staggering 120.9 million rupees. When inquired by Newsfirst yesterday, Sri Lankan Airlines said 2 lateral cockpit window panel frames of the aircraft were required to be replaced due to metal fatigue. The airline's statement mentioned 2 options for the repair work. 1. Outsourced to a working party from Airbus at an approximate cost of $1.7 million. 2. To carry out the repair in-house at a cost of $500,000. The airline said it chose the second option as it was a saving. However, the penalty payment now at $780,000, option 2 has more than doubled to $1.28 million. Yesterday, Sri Lankan informed Newsfirst that the Airbus was sent to a company called GMF Aero Asia based in Indonesia for a complete paint job of the full aircraft. When inquired today for more information on its current whereabouts, Sri Lankan Airlines said the aircraft was sent to Indonesia on the 16th of April and was returned on the 19th of May. When questioned why the aircraft is still in Sri Lanka and has not been returned to the lessor, the airline responded, "The major repair that was performed under Airbus supervision needs more repair work and that this will delay the output by several days." It added that the aircraft would be returned to the lessor within the next 14 days, as soon as Airbus confirms the repair work is a success. This additional 14 days will cost a further $168,000, which now adds up to $1.448 million. According to Sri Lankan Airlines, the cost for GMF to perform the paint job on the aircraft was approximately $75,000. However, due to the delay and paint quality, the airline has withheld part of the payment and has started a warranty claim. Nevertheless, the figure now stands at $1.523 million, a mammoth payment exceeding 236 million rupees.
Who is responsible for this colossal cost to be borne by the public? Does this not call for an internal audit?
In a series of special events to mark 150 years of Ceylon tea, Sri Lanka introduced a commemorative 10 rupee coin at the central bank today. Speaking at the occasion, Minister of Finance and Mass Media, Mangala Samaraweera, said Ceylon tea has the potential to tap the huge Chinese market.
From the external point of view, we have a highly concentrated international market for our tea exports, where 60% of our tea exports go to Russia and the Middle East. In this backdrop, it may be difficult to witness upbeat market conditions in Sri Lanka's main export regions in the immediate future due to the unfolding geopolitical developments and low oil prices. Hence, it is time that we may recalibrate our product and market development strategies as a matter of priority.
Many of us are very aware that revenue, the foreign exchange earned from tea, has been a critical component of our very valuable or very scarce foreign exchange earnings in the country over the years. In fact, the tea price is probably the most important economic indicator in the country for many, many years. What is less talked about is the role that the taxation imposed on the tea sector played in developing our free education and free health system. If you look at tax revenues over the 1950s and 60s, it is really primarily a large percentage of it, I should say, came from taxation of the tea sector. So this has been a critical sector as far as all Sri Lankans have been concerned.
In 2015, the prices were really low when I assumed office, but collectively as a team we have worked together and the prices have improved steadily. Now we have to concentrate on production issues. Production is coming down for various numerous reasons. I don't want to mention them here, but I need your support also to get the production side sorted out now.
An employee of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, Saman Kumara, was summoned to give evidence before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry today. Newsfirst Zulfiq Farzan has been following this story for over a period of 60 days, and he has more on today's proceedings. Zulfiq?
Thank you, Mahina. Well, the focus was on the evidence given by Saman Kumara, who was attached to the Employees Provident Fund. Now, at the start of the proceedings of his evidence, the Commission warned him that he must reveal the truth before the Commission, as he has taken oath before the Commission, and not speaking the truth would lead to dire consequences which can be punishable under the penal code. Now, when his evidence was recorded, the Attorney General's Department extensively questioned him on his assets and liabilities, and thereafter the Commission was concerned about how he had amassed these assets and said that the situation is not good for him and that he must reveal the truth before the Commission in order for the Commission to ascertain what actually has happened behind this entire bond issue. Now, he also made a statement before the Commission claiming that he is innocent and that there's a conspiracy that is behind him, and he has evidence to prove that during the time he was in the EPF that malpractices had taken place, and he can also give out names. The Commission informed him that all facts will be taken into consideration and that everything should be the truth that he reveals. Now, meanwhile, he was also instructed to hand over his passport and the passports of his family members to the detectives who are assisting the Commission, and also the mobile phone that he used before 2015 must also be handed over to the Commission. That was the orders given by the justices in the Presidential Commission of Inquiry. Now, this morning, Richie Das from Pan Asia Banking Corporation, the Deputy General Manager of Treasuries, provided evidence, and his evidence led to the Commission to have a serious concern on Nimal Pereira, the former chairman of PABC, his involvement in the intermediary role performed by Pan Asia Banking Corporation. The intermediary role was between Perpetual Treasuries Limited and the Employees Provident Fund. The Commission was keen to know Nimal Pereira's involvement, and the Commission also wanted to know who were the other benefactors of the intermediary role that was played by PABC. The Commission instructed Deputy Solicitor General Milinda Gunathilaka to dig deeper into these transactions and find out who were the other parties that benefited from these transactions. Finally, Richie Das revealed before the Commission that Pan Asia Banking Corporation at times used money brokers for their bond transactions and trading. Now, two of these money brokering companies were Bartlett and Taproban. Now, these two also led the Commission to have some concerns, and they wanted to know actually who are the other parties that benefited from this intermediary role played by Pan Asia Banking Corporation that was between Perpetual Treasuries Limited and the Employees Provident Fund. Those were what happened at the Presidential Commission of Inquiry today. It's back to you, Mahina.
Thank you, Zulfik. That was, of course, Newsfirst Zulfik Farzan reporting from the Newsfirst Centre here in Colombo. In more local news, the Youth Bhikkhu Collective called on Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe this morning.
The meeting took place at the temple trees.
We need to know details on the matter of the unitary state and Buddhism losing its place. The President and I have agreed that both parties will give priority to Buddhism. We have discussed to ensure that shortcomings will not be experienced by any religion. We are undertaking that process. There is a view that all donation boxes are being sealed. What is happening? We call for an Archaeology Advisory Council. They have reached an agreement. The situation in Dambulla is critical and it must be conserved. There were conditions imposed by UNESCO. We need to fulfill those conditions before the 1st of December 2017 and produced a report. If we fail to do so, the Dambulla temple would be removed from the list of World Heritage Sites in 2018. We must decide whether we are going to have it as a World Heritage Site or not. As the subject minister, I have a responsibility to intervene and look into this. We have informed the Minister of Buddha Sasana in this regard. We have informed the Mahanayaka of the Askira chapter as well. We as Buddhists are not pleased that the matter of donations is being spoken of in an uncivilized manner. We request the Education Minister to meet the Mahasangha and discuss it with them in a more cordial manner and resolve this issue. We do not agree with the fact that they are taking aim at the Mahasangha. That is not a good thing.
Minister of Housing and Construction Sajid Premadasa inspected the Siri Kanduravatta Tsunami village constructed in Rathgama, Galle.
During the inspection, the quality and the standards of the houses constructed under the previous regime caught his attention. Since the construction was not up to standard, the minister laid the foundation to build 44 new houses and 57 houses are to be renovated.
They deposited the money in their accounts when they were supposed to help those affected by tsunami and gave some remnants to the Siri Kanduravatta. We were able to witness the miracle of the previous regime from the Siri Kanduravatta. The nature of this so-called miracle is evident when you press your finger against the wall. It creates a dent. You put some pressure, it creates a dent in the wall. Is this what you call patriotism? I challenge the members of the joint opposition to come to the Siri Kandravata if they have anything called self-respect. I ask Mima Birbansa, who talks of so-called puppets working for foreign interest, to look into the mirror to see his own nudity.
A seminar on international trade and information technology agreement was held in Colombo this morning. The event was jointly organized by the Department of Commerce and the World Trade Organization.
The WTO Information Technology Agreement was entered into force in July 1997 with the main objective of liberalizing the world trade in information and communication technology products. Today, ITA products account for a remarkable 15% of all global manufacturing exports. During the 10th WTO Ministerial Conference held in Nairobi, over 50 members concluded the expansion of the Information Technology Agreement, which now covers an additional 201 new generation of ICT products valued at over $1.3 trillion a year.
Corruption is a word that haunted the activities of the former government, and now it is casting a shadow on the current government. How are political parties in Sri Lanka responding to this issue? Newsfirst Chaturanga Hapuarachi has the details. Chaturanga?
Thank you very much, Mahina. We are joining once again from the newsroom. As you very correctly pointed out, corruption has been the word when it came to the political arena throughout the ages. Now, various political parties have been accusing the other political party of carrying out corruption and various malpractices in the country. But the public, we the public, continue to watch with frustration with these two questions in mind. Who are these perpetrators and when will they be brought before the law? News First has a recap of the exchange of words with regard to the politicians and the corruption that is taking place in our country.
This was not established to investigate corruption. This was established to provide the relevant documents to the FCID. There are 14 institutions to investigate corruption. There is the FCID, the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, the CID, the Presidential Commission. Corruption in the state is looked into separately under the Establishment's Code. Therefore, we cannot be spending on this any longer. There are questions regarding the services that have been provided by this institution in comparison to the money that has been spent. They have been sending the files here and there without even a proper inspection. The FCID was not appointed to look into minor offences but the major ones. When this institute directs it there, the FCID will have to investigate it. When everything is sent to the Attorney General's department, the AG complains saying that he cannot investigate 3,000 complaints, taking into consideration the number of people working at the department.
What about the delay?
I will tell you the reason for the delay. The FCID says it has received 82 files, but the process is being undermined because everyone goes in the same line.
Minister Amaravira said that they need to be forgiven for any mistakes that may have occurred in the past.
According to the law of the country, we cannot forgive anyone. The pardon needs to be granted by the court. Can the cabinet decide whether a suspect needs to be granted pardon? Are there cabinets like this in the world?
The statement by Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that justice must be served.
Justice is there in abundance for them. It is the public that does not have justice.
The members of the SLFP who are in the government have several charges against them as well.
Cases have been filed against them. Who is Priyanka Rajaratne? Who is Fauci? Cases have been filed against them, but no cases filed against the others. Therein lies the problem.
14 institutions to tackle corruption in the country. That's what Minister Dr. Rajitha Senaratne had to say. When it came to corruption in the country, the Janata Vimukti Peramuna, the JVP, took to the forefront always to reveal certain actions of corruption, malpractices, irregularities happening with the money of you and I, the public of this country. The JVP also had something to say about the level of corruption taking place in the country at present. Let's take a listen. There is political interference. Complaints have been lodged against several ministers in the government and investigations are ongoing. For instance, there is a complaint against a current cabinet minister on allegations of dried coconut re-export. An allegation has been levelled against current government ministers for obtaining 30 million rupees from Lanka Transformers Limited and used it for personal political work. A complaint has been lodged against former Fisheries Minister Ajitha Senaratne for leasing a fisheries harbour for a low price to a British company on the 30th October 2014. Minister Nimal Siripal de Silva is accused of the Ging Nilwala project. The Paddy Research Board incurred a loss of 4,000 million rupees and the subject minister was from the United National Party. The new governor, Rohita Bogolagama, who served as the chairman of the BOI, had left a London hotel without settling the bill after staying there during the Sri Lanka Trade Fair and Conveners meeting. The government had to pay that bill, which came up to 1.1 million. There are complaints regarding this. He spent millions for the daughter's birthday party. 2 million was spent for the cake itself. 211 luxury vehicles were released tax-free for Minister Ravi Karunanayake. That charge is there. That incurred a loss of 1,262 million rupees. There was an allegation that the antique furniture at a house where the Minister of Higher Education at the time, SP Disanayake, built a boarding house for the Colombo University were stolen. The value of the house was 240 million rupees. There is an allegation against Minister Akila Viraj saying that he made an appointment going against the monetary regulations. Minister Range Bandara's office has filed a complaint that Minister Anura Priyadarshini provided 600,000 rupees from the Ministry of Petroleum to distribute goods for the nation. There are a number of allegations against the ministers and deputy ministers of the government.
There is something the president sees very clearly. The Rajapaksa family has been pampered from Ranil Wickremesinghe's side. What is this tactic of Ranil Wickremesinghe? There is an election that will come in the future. There is an election in the Sabragama province. Ranil thinks that the best way to win the election is to keep the SLFP divided. Who does this task of dividing this? Mahinda Rajapaksa.
As we mentioned earlier on, before we started revealing to you about the various views expressed by the political party, it was not only the main political parties that revealed details or spoke about corruption today. The Jatika Helorume, the JHU, also spoke of corruption. Let's have this.
We presented a number of complaints against the Chief of Staff of the President, Damani Senarath. We provided these complaints to the Bribery Commission and the Anti-Corruption Secretariat. We provided it to the CID, the Inland Revenue Department. There has been no progress. Who is going to be responsible for these complaints that we have lodged? Before compiling a new constitution, the main task this government had was to nab the perpetrators.
Former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa arrived in the court premises today regarding the Avantgarde case with former President Mahinda Rajapaksa.
It does not matter whether it was there or not. Wherever it has come from, it has to come from the President's office and the Prime Minister's office. No one can lodge complaints there. You can clearly see where these are carried out from. I can see that the Minister is a bit upset these days. He's chasing us more. He's bringing files. They're attacking us at a rate.
Several activities of the former government comes to mind when you speak of corruption, irregularities and even crimes. Can you remember the assassination of Lasantha Wickrematunge, the disappearance of journalist Prageet Teknaligoda, the bombing of various media institutions, including our media institution, then the irregularity with regard to the Cyrilia account, the MIG deal. Various corrupt activities happened during the previous government. These are, of course, the views expressed by the current government before they came into power in the run-up to the presidential election and even the general election. The list does not seem to end there. The mansion that was located in the Malvan area, the coal tender corruption that happened, the hedging deal, the Greek bond issue, these are all allegations that were raised against the previous government. But when you take a look at this government, the present government, there's of course the bond scam that happened, not just once but twice, in February 2015 and in March 2016. There is the fraud that happened with regard to the Central Highway. The Volkswagen, of course, we followed the story very closely. The Prime Minister mentioned the name of our news station at another event prior, or rather subsequent to the opening of the Volkswagen issue as well. The alcohol distillery that is being constructed in the Calcutta area was another allegation that was raised against this government. The Google Loon project was an allegation raised against the current government. The list of corruption does not seem to stop in our country, and sometimes when you take a look at this, these are all funds of the general public, the money that belongs to you and I. So when we take a look at all of this, this government came into power with the promise of eradicating corruption in the country and bringing the perpetrators before the law. What we continue to see is that the political parties continue to point the finger at various other people, saying that they did the mistake. And up to now, Dr. Minister Raja Senaratne said that there are 14 institutions to tackle corruption in the country. Up to now, has anyone been arrested with regard to corruption or even the criminal activities that they themselves mentioned before coming into power? Have they forgotten what they said? Where is the good governance that they spoke of? And where is the good governance when it comes to governing the country under their government? So these are, of course, questions that we have to ask. Between the 10 to 15 years that has passed from 2005 to 2015 and then 2016 and the present year 2017, take a look at, think to yourself, the amount of corruption that has taken place in our country. Who is telling the truth? Or are they just all together pointing the finger at each other so that the public will be deceived? Are they trying to hoodwink the public with whatever is going on with regard to the opposition and the government? Who are the real perpetrators? We are a media house. We report. You decide.
The only surviving witness in the shooting at the Walikada prison, which took place under the previous government, filed a complaint with the Tissamaharama police today. The witness, Sudesh Nandimal Silva, says that he continues to receive death threats.
In November 2012, inmates at the Walikada prison demonstrated and the security forces intervened to bring the situation under control. A shooting that took place during the incident claimed the lives of 27 inmates. Sudesh Nandimal is an eyewitness to the incident and has now taken legal action demanding for justice. At 7:45 last evening, I received a call demanding me to refrain from giving evidence. The caller demanded that I step away from the Walikada incident. The caller claimed that I was a traitor and that I was trying to betray them. They threatened to kill me if I don't step away. The killings took place right before my very eyes. When I am attempting to reveal the killers and call for the killers' arrests, I am receiving death threats. The government is silent.
President's Counsel Hemantha Varnakulasuriya, speaking to Newsfirst, made the following remarks.
A majority of the people in the country are afraid of a UNP government coming into power because they believe a program against the Sinhala Buddhists will be implemented. People like the late Rana Singha Premadasa undertook the task to change that mindset. Today the demon has risen and created a division among the Sangha. They are using other monks to speak against the view of the Mahanayaka Theros of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters. They attempt to bring a bill to suppress the media as well. In this backdrop, they want to curtail the powers of the President and increase the powers of the Prime Minister. We fear that the leader of the UNP, Ranil Wickremesinghe, is attempting to take this country into a state of crisis.
And finally, in sports news tonight, the new Test cricket captain of Sri Lanka, Dinesh Chandimal, has requested fans to redirect their allegations at him and not the players. Today, as a media briefing, Angelo Matthews announced that he would be stepping down as captain.
The selection committee discussed the matter, and based on their decision, Angela Matthews submitted his letter of resignation. The selection committee had decided to appoint Dinesh Chandimal as the captain of the test team. SLC had approved that Upul Taranga will be appointed as the captain of One-Day Internationals and T20 Internationals. The minister and the Ministry of Sports was informed of these decisions. We need to accept praise and criticism. For the past 2 years, the ODI team has an average of 43. At this time, players are mentally disturbed. I understand this as captain. Therefore, I request those using social media and the fans to direct your blessings and support towards us. Personally, I believe the team needs change. I believe that Upul Taranga and Dinesh Chandimal would be ideal leaders for the team. Though I am not captain, I will give them and the team all my support.
It's a very handsome stroke from Angela Matthews.
Angela Matthews stepped down as captain in a backdrop where he performed exceptionally well during the series and where he is not the cause of the loss. The example that he has set out is not only important to the sport, but is of paramount importance to other sectors as well. Politics is among those sectors. This message is to the gentlemen who suffer loss after loss and are eagerly waiting to grasp power despite legal obstruction to compete once again. Take a lesson from Angela Matthews.
Well, that's it from all of us here at the English News Desk. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mahina Bongso. Good night.